All right, we're back again, and I'm super stoked for this one because I shot a buck. It's so weird. We were just talking about how hopefully on the next one I can talk about a buck that I shot, and it happened.
Foreshadowing.
Yeah, or like, do you believe in like, what is it, like reverse jinxing, or
good karma?
Yeah, or no, you talk about it and you, I don't know. I spoke it into existence.
Self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, there you go. Whatever it is, I'm stoked that it happened, and we're gonna break down the hunt and just some more topics surrounding the hunt for you guys today. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, and we're gonna be bored the next 3-4 months.
It's a good thing that we're willing to travel.
Yeah,
a little bit, a couple hours in any direction, you can be in a different state. So
for sure, it was one of those deals where it was meant to be. So if you watched our Tailgate Talk and Jake's video of his hunt, you probably already know and saw that we'd seen this buck 3 times, but hunted there 5 times because Easton sat it twice, which is so crazy to me because he was literally doing the exact same thing, and you slipped in with better weather, I guess the same wind, but so cooler weather, the same wind that he did it on the night before, and closer to the recent information. So the MRI, the most recent info, statistically, you should have killed him, right? Yeah, I mean, you guys saw him. You hunted 2 times. The first 2 sits there, you both saw him.
Yep.
And so then I went in for
3 days apart.
Yeah,
Sunday
and then
Tuesday.
I went in for the 3rd hunt, and then the 4th hunt, and never saw him either time. And then you went into the same spot, and unknowingly, 10 feet away from the tree I was sitting in, and you killed him there. Yeah.
This is something that, from the guy who sifts through all the footage and edits everything, I don't know if you guys would have noticed it or paid attention to it or even had a chance to, but I think it was the last night that you hunted there. Is that when you saw more deer? Did you see more deer the first or second night?
First
night.
Yeah.
One of the last deer you filmed was a young buck.
Yep.
And it was the young buck that we saw 5 minutes before he showed up. So I bet you were just on the wrong side of time. I bet you climbed down as that deer was getting in range, and he probably boogered out of there.
He was probably stretching his legs, getting out of his bed as I was walking out.
So I don't think that I don't think the intel was wrong. I'm sure that deer was doing the exact same thing.
Was that the little, it was almost a spike, but I think he did have brows. I saw that deer both nights, and I didn't film him the second night. He was on, I think the neighbors have a food plot, don't they?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I could see him from that gravel access road. I could see him feeding in the neighbor's food plot because I considered going further past where I was setting up. Mm-hmm. And I decided to pull back and just sit the same tree I'd sat the first night. But I did see that deer both nights. I just didn't film him the second.
I think they were in the same group of deer. I think that they're, for whatever reason, whether it was moon phase or if it was because it wasn't as recent to the cold front that came through, that they were just moving later. But I'm sure you were in the right spot. Just happened to be the wrong day.
Which, isn't that weird that I thought about this the other day, you very well could have been slipping out of there and he was standing 50 yards in the timber watching you leave, and then came out to feed. Or how many times does somebody walk along a field edge after dark back to their car and that stud that they're after is right inside the timber? And you would never know, right?
Nope.
So, but just to kind of preface and I guess start from the beginning, if you saw the hunt, you can tell and maybe got a good laugh out of it. We've referred to it a few times now. This piece of private land is basically public. It's the private public piece. And we had on the walk-in a guy in a truck drive through, the landowner on his tractor twice, and another truck, right?
Yep.
So the access road that we were hunting over leads to a couple different alfalfa hay fields, and they had been bailing that day.
Yeah.
So there's 2, I guess, perspectives when it comes to that type of stuff. I think you got the guys that are our hunt's over, and maybe would even leave if something like that happens. And part of me, I think I even said to Jake, man, this is a rough start. Are we going to see any deer? But then there's the other part of you where I've had hunts on our uncle's farm and different places where there's human activity, and as soon as that stops, the deer pour out. And that's exactly what happened.
Yep.
Which is just wild. It's they're so used to it, and they know, okay, they're gone now, it's safe, and the woods just pour.
Mm-hmm.
So that made the story even cooler because hopefully, folks can learn something from that and not maybe be discouraged if they have a similar experience or a similar situation. It's just like when you're hunting and a doe's blowing at you. We learned that in Kentucky this year. I used to think, oh, well, our hunt's over. Why would a deer come in here if that supposedly is like an alert sound to other deer, right? And then 5 minutes later in Kentucky, a shooter comes out. So it's like you can never give up and you never know.
The only times you see or hear a doe blow is when you're actually there. And what you don't see is how many times they blow at stuff when there's not a human around.
An acorn that falls and makes the wrong noise and a doe's in the wrong mood, she could easily blow at something as simple as that.
Yeah.
Just because it startled her. Not necessarily because she knows there's an imminent threat, but just because it made her uncomfortable and she's like, I don't like this being here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, That's a great point. It's just like the tree falling in the woods. If you're not there, it doesn't make a sound. Like the does are doing that type of stuff all the time, and yeah, I guess they're probably used to it. But yeah, so that was an interesting start to the sit and the hunt, and this was our Jake and I's second mobile sit of the year. So the first one Jake killed on the same farm, probably
80 yards away.
80 yards away from that spot, which is pretty cool. And then the second mobile setup was ours, which I think we should talk about right now. We've had some different tailgate talks discussing like hang-on stands, mobile stands, and we referenced it, I think, in Jake or Easton's tailgate talk episode, but we like them both. We do them both. We will continue to do them both.
They both have their place and their time for use, but
I'm sold on, I'm 100% sold on mobile hunting after this season, and it's only been a month. It's just something about the surprise attack, I think.
This is a question that I've been tossing around in my head, and I think I have my own answer to it. But why? Like, if you had to pick a single response to that question, why would you say you're sold on mobile hunting?
Because I think so I'm going to tie Easton's hunt into this, which was out of a ground blind. You waited to slip in at the right time, basically to keep that spot fresh, right? Mm-hmm. When you're mobile hunting, you're constantly keeping it fresh. You're not pounding the back 20 acres over and over again. You can be hunting the same piece, but keeping it fresh. You know what I mean? So I think that's why it's so effective and why I'm sold on it. You get a different view as a hunter every time. Like, that's cool. You get the different site, different setup. Maybe learn something different about how to set up in a different tree, different obstacles that can teach you a lesson, and then you're keeping that spot fresh.
I would say, if you don't mind me
Go ahead.
jumping in, I would say my ability to react would be my biggest thing. You see something and you jump right to it. I don't know if that's where you were going to go with it. It's just the ability to react right away. You see something, you move to it. And I think that's the only thing you don't get out of a stationary set. Is it's there, and you could move it, like you mentioned in a previous tailgate talk, but it's so easy to just see something and go to it, and that's what you need to do to be able to stay.
What I wanted to tie this back to, because I still see high odds sits coming from permanent sets that you've been able to sit and adjust year to year based on intel that you've gained over the last 15 years. We have stands like that we would have no problem going and sitting during the rut because we feel like they've been in the same tree for the last 10 years. We've had good success. Odds are pretty high. If we were going to do a mobile hunt in that location, we'd probably pick that tree anyways, so there's no reason to tear it down. I think the difference is in the length of time that we've built intel. For those permanent sets, it's over a decade, maybe more, that it's taken us to build that intel. For mobile hunting, especially for you and I this year, and I mean yours is over a little bit longer period of time, like a year or two, but for you and me, it was in 2 weeks we made the move. And that goes back to, we've been on, I think it was on the Up North Journal podcast a long time ago, way back in the day. And they asked a question like, what's different about the way you hunt now compared to the way you used to hunt? And the way we used to hunt was with a crossbow, sitting up against fall downs in the woods. And if we sat somewhere and we saw a deer 100 yards away, you bet your butt the next time we hunted, we were 100 yards away where those deer were at. We were mobile hunting without knowing. I mean, the term didn't even exist back then. So we talked all the time in the past several years about, man, we used to see so many big deer. We used to see big deer and get shots at big deer all the time. What's different? We used to think, is the deer herd down? Are the numbers down? Is there way more hunting pressure? Is our scent strategy bad? Like, we ran through the gamut. And at the end of the day, what I've realized now is that the reason we're having success this year is because we went back to our roots of being mobile and literally just not caring about what we are like in the woods. You just got to go and sit somewhere and then make adjustments to that game plan as you gain information.
Sure. Hold that thought about back to our roots, because that's word for word a note I have on here that I wanted to talk about in this tailgate talk. But you just made me think of this when you just described all that, and I think you're spot on. Maybe the coined mobile hunting term is just a little bit flawed. Like, what is a stationary stand? Is it for a year? Is it for 6 months? Is it for 5 years?
Yeah.
And what is mobile hunting? Maybe we're not mobile hunting, we're just hunting sign.
Yeah.
We're just going wherever the deer are, and you're right, you could have a mobile stand that you move year to year and you're still being mobile, or you can have a mobile stand that you're moving every time you hunt, or you could have a stationary stand that's there for 6 months or for 6 years.
Well, and I'm hesitant to even say this because I know there are a lot of people out there that would share this opinion. I think all three of us, for the most part, share this opinion, but I don't want to upset anybody by saying this, but I'm a marketing guy. That's what I do for a living. Like, I can tell right away when something's a gimmick. And the term mobile hunting is a gimmick, because you don't need to buy a $400 stand to mobile hunt. You can go and buy a $39.99 stand from Dunham's and put some backpack straps on it and hunt with the same strategies that we're implementing. The gear might help, it might be better, but I think people get in their head like, I don't want to mobile hunt, because they don't want to take the leap and jump in and buy a $300 stand and sticks combination. It's like, you really don't need that. And I think that's what I've been trying to get at the past couple times we talked about this subject, because I think we used to think that mobile hunting was a barrier for us because of finances. Forget that. You can be mobile on the ground and you're still executing the mobile hunting strategy.
It's a great point.
So,
this is a great point. Yeah, it's something like you said you can do with your $200 used crossbow. If you want to jump around and move around, you're still going to see deer, I'm sure.
It'd be interesting to see how many people think they're kind of excluded from the mobile hunting game because there is a barrier, or in their mind there's a barrier.
You mean like because they don't have a saddle, or they don't have an expensive mobile stand?
Yeah, all it comes down to is, you might have a more lightweight platform as opposed to a $50 Dunham stand that is 4 more pounds. Like you said, you could throw some straps on it, and it's essentially a mobile set. You're hunting mobily.
You could build your own wooden tree stand and take that on your back and be mobile hunting.
You don't even have to be in a tree.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, last year when I hunted with Corey, oops, bleep that location out, Jake. Last year when I hunted with Corey, I had that it's called a Bigfoot tree stand. And for my backpack straps, I just took the ratchet straps that I did for the tree and rigged up a backpack strap. And I was mobile without even realizing I was being mobile.
Yep.
And it was a stand that was literally clipping every tree through the woods.
Yep.
It's so big, but we got off a little bit from my hunt there, but I think those were great points to bring up and something that I didn't even realize until we started talking about it. So yeah, it's something that you don't be afraid to take that leap. You can definitely do that. You don't need the most expensive gear to do so. But yeah, I yanked for my hunt. I went and yanked an old tree stand out of a set that we had over our food plot for the last 3 years, and that's what I used as my stand that night. So I didn't have anything fancy either.
Yeah, you just carried it with your hand. You didn't have straps on it.
Yeah.
Towed it to the woods like you're carrying a handbag.
Yep.
Just so happens that handbag allowed you to kill a buck.
And it just so happens that somehow you sat in that stand and I sat in yours. So moving forward, Jake had mentioned a little bit earlier about getting back to our roots, and I wanted to talk about that because I think that was definitely the theme for my hunt and maybe even our whole season so far. I don't know. I haven't determined it yet. I don't know what you guys' thoughts are, but we went into that hunt not really overthinking things. We knew where we wanted to go. We looked at our most recent information and no fancy gear. I think Jake, I've been dogging him and
photo of us looking like hillbillies.
Jake looked like you literally were on a safari guiding people like, hey, here's a giraffe, here's a lion. I looked like I had the cheapest camo on the planet. I had
Army surplus.
Yeah, pretty much. But it just goes to show you too, we had deer all within a 20-yard bubble of us all night, some downwind, and it's like, do whatever works for you and whatever you're successful with, but if you can learn anything from us, we've been through that. You know, we've been the guys.
We've spent the money on the scent control stuff. We've invested in what should have been the best camouflage. Like,
we've been those industry guys where it's like you fall into all these things, and it's so easy to, especially if you film.
Yeah.
And if you can learn anything from us, because like I said, we've been there, it's you don't need that stuff. It can just make hunting stressful. And it hasn't been stressful at all for us this year. And yeah, people might say, well, you guys all got bucks, so of course it wasn't stressful. But I had so much fun on the few sits that we had because there was nothing riding on it. You know, we were just out there back to our roots and hunting.
It also helps that you got to completely shellac giant deer on those sits.
Yeah, that does help, sure. But wouldn't you say, especially from like, let's put ourselves back 3 years ago, roughly.
We were stressed out hunting early season like that.
It wasn't even fun.
The one thing that stands out in my mind specifically from your hunt is, well, and this is true for all three of our bucks this year, but every one of them has been just a complete rodeo. Nothing has gone according to plan in any of those hunts. But I don't think I've laughed in a tree stand more than when you and I sat together. We were dying laughing, literally tree hugging, hiding from the landowner because we knew if he drove through on his tractor and saw us up in this tree, I mean, there's a giant opening. We'll lay B-roll so you can see what that opening looks like. If he had any sense about him and was looking up in trees or anything, he would have totally seen us, and he would have definitely stopped that tractor and talked to us until dark.
You have a turkey hunting story similar from that same landowner where you ended up literally giving up a whole entire hunt.
And he's a great guy, like you said. I haven't met him personally, but I mean, he gives us permission to hunt, so that makes him a great guy already. But he also gives the rest of the county permission to hunt too.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
it's
side
so
note,
funny.
we love this landowner. Is a great guy. We are so thankful he's let us hunt for the last, I don't even know, 5 years or so. We've taken turkeys, deer now, and we're so thankful for him. But yeah, he's the type of guy, you know, he's a farmer. He wants to talk and catch up and see how things are going. Yep. And he doesn't hunt, so that would have definitely happened.
Not since we were kids do I remember a hunt where we were that carefree and go lucky. Like, we were like, we're not going to see any deer. This is pointless. We're just going to like ride it out, have fun. Little did we know what was going to walk out.
And those are the sits where I feel like it does come together.
Well, that's what hunting is supposed to be. And you've said it before in some of our other videos, but that's what the Venari effect is. That it shouldn't be stressful. It should be carefree. It should be caution to the wind. It should be all of those things that are what make hunting raw and emotional, not stressful. And
sure. Moral of the story and the point that we wanted to bring up is if you're listening to this and you're like, man, that's me right now, like stressed out, trying to, you know, jump on this product bandwagon or that product bandwagon because you think you need to kill a 200-inch deer or a 100-inch deer, whatever it is for you, maybe take a step back and rethink what you're doing. You might find that you're a lot happier and maybe have a lot more success if you kind of throw all that to the side. So something else I wanted to talk about, and this doesn't just apply to us, but I noticed this year, it's kind of interesting. So we all, you know, we got lucky. We had a great season. Here we are approaching November, and we have our bucks. Do you guys so to be successful in hunting or the hunting industry, to me, it feels like our clock's already reset now. You're only successful in the moment that you complete that successful act, and as soon as it's over, you got to prove yourself again. Do you guys feel the same way? Because for me, when you kill that big deer you're after, you're successful, but you're only successful in that moment, and as soon as that moment's over, the next day, like you got to prove yourself again. Nobody cares about what you did.
Well,
like you got to do it again, and then you got to do it again.
This is just a life truth, I think, and if you thought about your life in particular or life in general long enough, I think you'd come to the same conclusions. But the happiness of living life isn't in the success. It's in the journey to the success. You can, like, okay, you graduate from high school, you get your diploma. You are successful. And there are millions of other people who go through the same thing. That doesn't decrease the value of that, but after that day is over, you're low life. Graduate college, you're successful, you did a good deed, you accomplished something. The day after you graduate, now you are the next person applying for a job at your local Starbucks. Like, you're at the bottom of the totem pole. Yeah. It's the journey to the climb that is what's most meaningful and impactful. The icing on the cake is being able to hold up a giant set of antlers. But I think for us, the real success this year specifically is the way that we went about it. It's the journey to all of those things that is why we're successful. So I think that the gratification of a successful journey might be fleeting, but to me it doesn't diminish the fact that I feel like we did a good job this year and that we actually turned around and did things right by us and by our own standards for once.
Sure. Yeah, you can tell Jake's a dad, because that was some father insight right there. I thought about it when we were hunting in Kentucky, because it's like, you got your buck, and I think a lot of people would just take a break. I got my buck, like, things are good, whatever, and you're already jumping back on the horse, like, I got to do it again. I want to do it again. I want to, not because, yeah, sure, we want to go hunting again, but it's like, I want to prove it again. I want to kill another good buck in another state where I have a tag.
That's true, and that's what my point is, because it's not that you killed a buck that makes you successful. It's all of the legwork that you had to do to get to the point where you got to kill a buck that made you successful. So you're not looking for the next buck you can kill. You're looking for the next journey to the next buck you can kill. That's what you're thriving for. That's what your heart is after, is the journey to get there. That's why you want to go out of state and you want to put boots on the ground and miles on your legs and push yourself, because it's not the arrow through a deer that makes you successful. It's all of the stuff leading up to it, and you're just up for the next challenge.
Yeah, there's a lot that has to go right before that arrow is released, that's for sure.
So in my opinion then, yeah, like on Instagram, the day you post your trophy photo for the first time is the most likes you'll ever get. And if that's the way you live your life, then that's going to be your most successful day ever. Yeah. But Instagram doesn't by no means tell your whole story.
Well, so that's why getting back to the roots is cool too, because I think that's what our industry's come to is, there's guys that are out there seeking that gratification and all that, and they're not even, I was always taught growing up, like in wrestling, you got to do it for yourself and nobody else. And it's like for hunting, it's in anything in life, it's the same thing. Like if you're out there doing it for Instagram likes or for this company or for this sponsor or whatever, probably not going to be as satisfied as if you were out there doing it for you. I don't know, just something I thought of the other day, and I thought it would be a good time to bring it up on here just because of the status that we're in right now, or the point in our season we're in right now, where we're like kind of seeking that next thing or that next goal or that next accomplishment.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's not even Halloween yet. Pre-rut hasn't even really started that much, and we don't even have buck tags in our home state because they're filled. So, but that's what I think is neat about the mentality that we have, and this is to me what shows just how important the aspect of hunting is in our lives, because it's not something that you take your week-long rut vacation, you shoot your buck, and you're done. There's way more to it for us, and that's what I think makes hunting as an aspect of our life so different than some other people.
It's funny you just brought that up. You're hitting everything before I bring it up. I have a list of points on my phone here.
I haven't seen the notes.
Yeah, just some things I thought would be good to talk about, and one of them is that I think it's easy to say, like, when it comes to whatever your craft is, like, that you care and that you want to, but I would be willing to bet, at least I feel this way, I don't think anybody thinks about it more or wants it more than us. Like, some of the conversations you and I have on our long trips to Kentucky and stuff, like, nobody wants it more than us. Maybe people want it, as much. People are as passionate about it as we are, sure. But I don't know that there's anyone out there that is more passionate about this type of stuff than we are.
Yeah, and I don't think, I feel like people might think that means we kill bigger bucks. Like, no. That's not the claim. We're saying we're just crazy about hunting. Yeah. We have never made claims to shoot big deer even. Like,
Well, and not that we really necessarily care to. There are people out there that hunt and they'll only shoot a buck if it's 160 inches or better. I don't think we'll ever have that standard.
No, and that just goes back to do what makes you happy.
Yep.
If it's a 100-inch deer that makes you happy, which in Kentucky, for me, I'd be elated.
Sure.
Or if it's a 140 that makes you happy, shoot it. Or don't shoot it, whatever you want. But yeah.
Or if that changes season to season, that's fine too.
Yep.
Yeah, but to our own degree, we are absolutely bonkers about just getting out there and hunting.
Right. That's why I think I don't know, it was just something that, and when you brought it up, it made me think of, I wanted to talk about, just because what happened this year, like, will never happen again, and it's never happened up until it. Like, we had luck on our side for whatever reason, we'll never know, but we did.
Good weather.
Good weather. A lot of things came into play. Ability to hunt at the right time, with work, things just all we kept saying it in your tailgate talk. All the stars aligned, and it did for all three of us. And yeah, it was nothing that we're sitting here like, oh, and now we know how to kill big bucks. Like, it happened to work out, and we're super grateful for it. And I think, if anything, what we want people to get out of these tailgate talks and our videos is how much we deeply, deeply, deeply care about hunting in general, not killing big bucks, not mobile hunting, not just as a whole.
I've talked to some people that are like on the struggle bus this year, and I've told them, like, your time will come. Like, for us, this is not normal. This is not what normally happens to us.
It's only October 19th.
Right. And so,
or
like,
20th or whatever it is.
I think Dave Owens has maybe said it. Like, you earn every kill you have. Whether you earn it the week before or you earn it 3 years ago when you were on the struggle bus yourself. Mm-hmm. Like, and you grind through that. I may have earned a buck that I started a year ago, mm-hmm. or maybe a week ago. But yeah, you earn them all. And like, we don't normally have the season that we've had. And like you said, it's October 19th.
Well, yeah, I mean, like my buck, you guys have both killed more bucks and bigger bucks, I think, than me. I went through a period of 7 years, a 7-year buck drought where, and not that I wasn't in the right place at the right time, but I just had the wrong equipment and I didn't know about arrow penetration and arrow weight and broadheads and all of that stuff. And so I was unsuccessful in a lot of ways, not necessarily because I wasn't in the right spot or wasn't in the game, but because when I was in the game, I took the wrong shots with the wrong equipment. So I had to go through all of those challenges. I mean, if you haven't gone 7 years without killing a buck, and in those 7 years have, because of equipment malfunctions or other mishaps, wounded as many deer as I have to learn those lessons the hard way, you have no idea how that made my heart sink
for
7 years. Please don't try it. And now that the information is out there and we know better, do your research and know better for yourselves too. But that's what I think you're getting at too, is that we care about it so much. I cannot tell you how many nights I laid up thinking about all of those moments. What could I have done differently? What happened? Why did this happen in this way? All of those things. And it just lends itself to the extreme passion that we feel for what it is that we do when we're in the woods.
Absolutely.
Shotgun, bow, crossbow, rifle, muzzleloader, doesn't matter what it is, just being there.
Yep, absolutely. And to tie those two things together, yeah, we had people message us and say, what are you guys doing different this year? Because we don't claim to shoot big bucks every year, and that's that's what we do. That's all we hold out for. But we happened to all three get nice deer this year, and we had some people say, what are you doing different? I want to know, what's the deal? The only thing I could think of is the ability to hunt sign, most recent information. That definitely is a big change. I think that definitely contributed, but I think the other thing is just going back to our roots and the passion. Whether you think that relates to it or not, if you're willing to grind and work hard and earn your success, it's going to come to you. Maybe not this year, maybe not next year, maybe 2 years down the road. Your time's going to come.
You made a post on Instagram. I'm not sure which one it was, but you said went back to the basics and put the wind in your face, and you don't have to buy into all the gimmicks. Get back to what you know, what makes sense. And you're going to find success in some way or another. You may not kill a deer, but the success might be learning something that leads to you killing a deer.
Yep.
And what makes sense might be different for each guy, which is cool. What makes sense on our dad's farm is waiting until November to hunt it. like staying out of there because you're going to have unsuccessful, boring sits, and then slipping in there in November when bucks are stacked in there for whatever reason, checking does, and you're probably going to have a successful hunt. So whatever that might be for you or whatever that looks like, it's case by case. But yeah, get back to what works for you. That's a great way to put it. I think we got, and I'm actually glad, I feel like for both of your tailgate talks, we kind of just like broke down the hunt even further. And this one kind of took a different path unintentionally, but I'm glad that it did, because these are things that I think aren't talked about enough in our industry. And I know for a fact there's people out there that are struggling with that right now, like the wanting to break into the industry, or maybe they film their hunts and they got hooked up with this company and it's not what they thought it was. And we've been there, and we want people to know that are listening and are in that spot that it is possible to get back to who you are, and you'll be a lot happier because of it.
Change of mind frame. Our idea of success was sponsors or affiliations with certain brands, and a lot of people still have that, is they think that's what success in the hunting industry looks like. Whereas we finally had that kind of like
epiphany,
click, that light bulb flip, and we're like, that's not at all what it is. If we're out there and I think it was because of the stress, we learned like it, just do what you get enjoyment out of. And
yeah, well, part of the reason why I had that 7-year buck drought is because, and why I ended up wounding so many deer, is because we used equipment that we were quote unquote affiliated with within the industry. For the people out there that want to say like we want to break into the industry, this industry is what you make it. If you have the time and the energy to go out and hunt with whatever equipment you think you are willing to put your trust in, just go out and have fun. If you want to make videos, make videos. That's how we decided to do it. But instead of the way that we used to do things in the past, which was to try to get in with any brand you can think of, there's hundreds of them, get them to sponsor us or give us product for free or pay us for content or whatever it is, and then that be our into the industry. This industry is what you make it. And we decided last year that we're just going to buckle down and just crank out as much content as we can, regardless of what broadhead we shoot, what bows we shoot. If we find something we believe in, like PSC is a great example. PSC is a great company. Nick and I started shooting PSCs when we grew up. Did you start on what did you start on?
Bowtech.
But that doesn't matter, because there's a lot of great bow brands out there. We just happen to really like that company. We really believe in their products. They're not paying us. So
yeah, the way they do things, their business model, all that aligns with exactly what we just described to you, right? We talked about this yesterday. Pete's basically the pioneer of this industry, and he still goes to work, every day. Like that's something that we can relate to, right? Still grinding it out, but yeah, we got off a little bit there, but something else to bring up a good point about getting back to your roots is everything that we're using, we all have our own confidence in. We all are shooting different arrows, different broadheads, different camos, different stands, different setups, but each one of us has confidence in it. And I think that can be another answer to what is different this year. Like, even though I don't shoot the heavy broadhead, the heavy arrow, the fixed broadhead, whatever, I had so much confidence in what I was shooting that I think that's a big reason things came together. I didn't have, if you probably saw in the video, I didn't have a lighted knock on my arrow because when I had tried and messed around with all those different things, I didn't feel like I was shooting to the ability I wanted to be shooting at. So I stuck with, the setup that I've had success with in the past, and I think you have a little bit of an edge when you're heading to your stand and like how confident you are.
Yep.
It's just like with any sport or anything, you have like a chip on your shoulder, and there's not this little bug in the back of your mind like when you forget your rangefinder. If I forget my rangefinder, my confidence, and maybe I'm not as good of a woodsman if I can't guess the deer's yardage, but my confidence plummets because I want to be in my stand and range all these spots and know that when that deer's standing out there, what the yardage is and all that jazz. So like when you're walking to the stand and you have that utmost confidence, I feel like there's just this I don't know, there's something about yourself that you just feel good, like look good, feel good, play good type deal. And maybe that factors into success a little bit, I don't know, but it's something that I definitely felt like heading into that sit. Like you have confidence in it, you feel good about it.
This is a little mythical, and I'm hesitant to share this also, but like dogs can sense in people. like that there's a
I
good
already know where you're
person or
going
a
with
bad
this.
person.
I was going to say this.
So I don't know how we do that, but we must think a lot alike.
You're going to
guess.
say, what if you're sitting in your stand and you're trying to please all these sponsors and you're just negative about yourself and you're not in a good mood, and what if the deer can sense that?
Yeah.
And they don't come into range, or they don't come in at all, or they wait till after dark?
Or
what if
not
you're-
even the deer necessarily. What if there's a chipmunk around you that happens to feel like something's weird because you're giving off this weird like vibe? I mean, if dogs can sense a bad human being, it's not because the dog knows the character of that person. It's because the dog senses something. That's something that an animal has that we either don't have or have forgotten because of civilization or whatever it is. But I wonder if that has something to do with it. Part of the reason maybe we had success this year is because we just didn't care. We were just happy-go-lucky. We weren't stressful. We didn't have bad vibes. When we hunted for your buck, we don't have any footage of this, but like we said, it's always a rodeo. I forgot my safety harness back in the truck, and I was not about to climb down and walk past that landowner to go get my safety harness. But as part of my mobile set, I happened to have 30 feet of rope that I use as a lifeline, and I jerry-rigged myself a safety harness and laughed about it. Was like, well, we're gonna give this a shot. And it definitely would have saved my life if I needed it to, but just I didn't care. I wasn't stressed out about it. I just made it happen, made it work. I wonder if that made a difference. We had deer underneath us all night long.
You may have just seen history in the making here on a Tailgate Talk, but I just came up with a product.
I was going to say, right? Bottle that.
And it encapsulates. It's a camo suit, and it encapsulates all your bad energy, right? So when you go to the stand and you're not confident, it holds that doubt within you.
For 6 easy payments of $9.99, you can get yours today.
It just got really weird. But it's a new product.
Yeah, based on the industry, you can probably sell a lot of them.
Yeah.
Don't they already have that?
I don't know. But it could be. I've thought about that weird stuff too. I'm like, man, I don't know. But it could be. And that's definitely how we felt this year hunting. You know, it was just, felt good. I was so excited to go instead of like, oh, this is a job.
Yeah.
I gotta go, I gotta go get this done again. There's so much pressure. And, we'll see what next year brings. Maybe we'll, since we burned through all of our luck, maybe we'll all get skunked next year. But I still, no matter what, want to take that approach and not lose sight of that for sure. But, all right, there was one other thing on here. Oh, the October lull.
Love it.
Love it. And I've seen more and more traction with that on social media of people like basically just forgetting about it.
Putting it to the wayside.
Which I love because I feel like when we first jumped into the industry, or whatever, that was a dumb thing to say, but like when we first started to try to get our feet wet with dealing with other companies and stuff, there was literally guys out there that wouldn't hunt because of the October lull.
There are still guys out there that they don't hunt mornings because of the October lull, but we know people who have been successful hunting October mornings in bad weather, like warm temperatures and just right place, right time.
Well, it goes back to the deer are moving somewhere. You just might not be where they're at. And I think would you say it's a shift in food maybe?
It's probably a culmination of a lot of things. Think about it. Like it coincides with when a lot of crops are coming off. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people say the October lull is deer's patterns are changing and they're only moving at nighttime. And that may be the case to some degree where they're not getting up out of their beds until closer to dark. But I would say they're still moving within some hunting hours.
They're not waiting until it's pitch black outside to stand up out of their beds.
And it just comes down to how you're hunting, and this could tie into mobile hunting. If you can get close enough to where they're bedding and catch them in those 20 minutes or more or less, I guess, that they're on their feet, you can still find success this time of year.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great point. I when I was younger and I would hear people talk about that, I thought, these bucks are nocturnal. They're laying in the same spot, and once it's dark, okay, it's time to get up. And it's like, no, they throughout the day they're shifting their beds, they're getting up, stretching, they're foraging a little bit. The wind shifts, they might move beds, but you got to be in a spot where you can capitalize on that movement. And we noticed too, like you said, the crops coming off. When I killed this buck specifically, we were hunting over an acorn flat and acorn ridge. It was just loaded with acorns, and they were hitting that. And we could have been 100 yards deeper in the timber, and that action was still happening, but we may not have seen a deer. And it's like, you just got to be right place, right time for October hunting, in my opinion. And scouting, whether that's via trail cameras or prior sits, I think is going to get you there.
Yeah. And that comes down to do what you know, going back to it. Like, the people that say the October lull's not worth it, don't believe them just because they're some big name within the industry. Yeah. That doesn't mean that applies to you. And I think people can only tell you as much as they know. So what Michael Waddell's saying on TV, it may be true, but just for him. It doesn't mean it's 100% applicable to your situation. So just because they say it doesn't mean it's not true, but it doesn't mean it will be for you.
Well, and here's something else that I thought about too, as far as mobile hunting goes. But take the Native Americans, for instance. Like, they didn't sit out on the prairie and wait for the buffalo herd. They moved with the buffalo herd so they could hunt them. Like, that's an age-old tactic, man.
They hunted during the lull.
Yeah, dude, they hunted during that buffalo lull, whatever that was.
Yeah.
No, the whole herd of 1,000 head of buffalo just laid down until dark.
Right.
More years than ever, I was so stoked this year just scrolling through social media and seeing people I don't even know killing big deer in October, because it's like, just 5 years ago, like, there's people that like would swear like you don't even waste your time.
Yep.
Like, I've had people tell me that, like, I don't go out in October, like, they're not moving.
It's been dang near every night. Not people we personally know, but like a mutual friend that has shot a buck nearly every night in the past week or so.
Yeah.
And we're in the middle, smack in the middle of October.
Right when you're not supposed to see deer.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And granted, we've had great, this might be the best early season hunting weather that I've ever experienced. Would you guys agree?
Yeah.
And so sure, maybe that factors into it, but I think it was Keith, what's his last name? Southern Ohio?
Robinson?
Yeah, he shot a good one like early-ish October in the morning. And it wasn't like great weather or anything like that. And
that's what I mean. That's what I was talking about.
Yeah, and I was messaging him back and forth, and it was just so funny because, you know, we were talking about the October lull, and he's like, yeah, he was on his lull pattern or whatever, but it's like, there was no like, oh man, we got to be out this morning type deal. It was just a sit in October that, you know, some people might have been like, oh, you're wasting your time, but guess what? The cards fell into place. You don't know until you're out there.
Yeah,
you don't know until you go.
Just throw a stab at it, and I like those guys because they catch on to a lot of those social constructs about what you're supposed to do and what you're not supposed to do, the do's and don'ts, and like kind of subtly make fun of it, which I love that type of humor anyway. But like,
it's true.
And he I don't even know that he ever hunts from a tree stand. I'm sure he does at some point, but he probably killed it from the ground because I know he does a lot of public land ground hunting.
Yeah, it could have, which would make it even cooler. But yeah, it's a good way. Like you said, we love that type of humor, but it's also a good way to like legitimately break down some barriers. And I think we're seeing that happen with the whole October lull topic, and you're seeing it a little bit more with scent control and some other things. Like, if you can have fun with it and kind of poke fun at, not at the people that are doing it, but just at the situation in general. And still at the same time, if it's something you want to do and makes you happy and works for you, that's great. But sometimes breaking down those walls and those barriers to get people thinking, which we want to do with these tailgate talks, get people thinking about what they're actually doing and what tactics they're currently using and applying. Yep. And even if we get people thinking about it, then it's a success, I think, on our end. That's what we want. Just think outside the box and think for yourself, right? Mm-hmm. That's what we're a country built on, right? Mm-hmm. So just to kind of finish this up a little bit, I know this has been another long-winded one, and like I mentioned, we didn't really talk a whole lot about the hunt. Hopefully you got, I know Jake and Easton killed the recovery and all that stuff, but a little bit disappointed in the lighting of the shot, and it was no fault of Jake. It was, if anything, it was a fault of myself for shooting a deer, I guess, past camera light. So it was 7:13 when my arrow entered that buck, and legal shooting that night ended on 7:25. So we were right there in, the last 10 minutes or so, and the camera, what's that? It's the Sony
PXZ190.
PXZ190.
I love that camera, and if you're over a field, like if that, at the end of my hunt, I showed a video of a little buck walking underneath me. That was right about the same time, like 10 minutes left illegal. And it was grainy, but you could see what it was.
Right.
When you're out there in the field and you don't have the canopy of leaves over top of you, the camera picks up a lot more light. You can film a lot later into that sunset time frame.
Right. I just wanted to bring it up because we obviously film our hunts, have YouTube videos, social media, whatever. I would never pass a deer in legal hours if the camera light, especially a deer of that caliber, if the camera light wasn't. And that's something we don't want to portray ourselves as being. Like, yeah, we film our hunts, and we love capturing footage and sharing it with folks, but at the end of the day, we're hunters. And
for us too, the way that we do film now, as a camera operator and an editor, I would never tell you not to shoot a deer if it's during legal hours and the camera light's not good.
Yeah,
I would never hesitate. I would never even hesitate. I would just say, pull the trigger, shoot that buck.
Well, the reason I brought it up, somebody asked me if I don't think they used the word regretted, but wished I didn't take the shot from a video standpoint. And I was like, absolutely not. I never even, it would have been great if it was 4 o'clock in the afternoon at 10 yards like he was. Sure.
It would have helped us know a little bit better about how to track the buck.
True, yeah.
Because that was an area of contention for us. But it was during legal hours. Camera light wasn't that great. But at the end of the day, for us, the reason we do this, the reason we hunt, and the reason we started documenting all this stuff was to tell the story. And the shot on film doesn't tell the story. All of the other little nuances of things that we film, that's what makes the story. The shot is an added bonus. If you get it, cool. If you don't get it, no big deal. We're still going to be able to show you the buck at the end of the video. We'll still be able to banter back and forth and talk about it here on these Tailgate Talks.
The beauty of it is we do what we do for fun. You're not filming and editing and producing this stuff to put food on the table and feed your 2 kids.
It doesn't make us like any money.
People on TV literally will not take a shot because their livelihood depends on them having an episode to produce and put on TV. We are fortunate in a way to not have to do that. We just have fun.
No strings attached.
And everything we're talking about keeps going back to just having fun.
Roots and...
Yeah, we're not doing it to make money. We're doing it to just enjoy ourselves. And if we can slap it on YouTube while we already have the footage on a hard drive at home and someone else can get some enjoyment out of it too, why not?
And if some money comes our way, cool. But it's not like we're out here trying to be Insta-famous.
No way. Not like the huntresses of the industry. Yeah. But just to recap and I guess put a final note on that, you said it's a part of the story. It made me think of one of my biggest regrets in hunting is I shot a buck years and years ago that had 2 broken tines, and I had the taxidermist fix those tines. And looking back, I'm like, yeah, sure, he had those tines at one point, but that's not how he was when I shot him. And you talked about it's part of the story. That's just how it was. That was the low light, not as good camera light. That was part of the story. That was part of how that whole night was supposed to happen for whatever reason. So moving forward, when I thought about it that way, I was like, man, I don't have any regrets about it because that's how God had it planned for it to work out for us. And that's how, when I tell that story 50 years from now, hopefully, that'll be part of the story. So,
well, and it wasn't like I was filming in complete darkness. If you watch the video, you can still see the silhouette of the deer. You can tell it's a buck. You can probably tell it's a decent buck, but it's not like crisp noontime footage. But hey, it works.
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
Put it together and tell a story. So
absolutely. So, other than that, hopefully you guys enjoyed this one as well and you're enjoying this series. If there's any topics you guys want us to cover, we have kind of a pipeline of some different out of the box, out of the ordinary topics that we want to talk about. If there's anything you guys are like, man, I wish they would cover something like this, shoot it our way. We'd be happy to discuss it. So we have one that we're really excited about and we're hoping to get knocked out here at some point. So if you guys would subscribe to our channel, you'll get the notification and be the first to see it and watch it. But other than that, we're approaching prime time. I mean, November is basically here. So if you guys are out, good luck. We hope you have as much success as we did and as much luck as we were fortunate to have.
And that you have fun while you do it.
Most importantly, have fun while you do it. Any closing thoughts, Easton?
We're not done.
No.
We are not done. I have a Kentucky tag in my pocket, and I'm getting itchy to fill it.
Almost did
yesterday morning.
Yeah.
Yesterday morning, I almost filled it, and we're already planning another trip.
It's gonna happen. We hung and bung, and we're gonna hang and bang.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next time. So moving forward, Jake had mentioned a little bit ago, and I told him to hold his thought on that, getting back to our roots. And I think that is... Pause.
I didn't turn my mic on either.
Nice catch.
Did you turn yours off, or did you turn it off?
Turned it off. Yeah, I turned it off.
discern that.